Welcome to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins. Let's Get Into It is a safe space to have real conversations that are meant to uplift, encourage, and let you know you are not the only one dealing with life. Each episode of Let's Get Into It is designed to provide illuminating and thought-provoking information on a variety of topics. In fact, no topic is off limit. If you would like to see a topic discussed, please feel free to make a recommendation. My special guest and I will have a great time discussing topics that the mainstream media wouldn't dare discuss. We will bring these conversations to you with an open mind, respectfully, from different perspectives, and most importantly, with love. Thank you for joining me and my special guest. Now, let's get into it. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Let's Get Into It. I am your host, Sherelle Higgins, and today we are going to talk about politics. But before we get into that, I want to encourage you to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Sherelle Higgins 123. And I'm encouraging you to subscribe to my YouTube channel for a couple reasons. Number one, the more subscribers I have, the more money I make. And number two is Facebook has decided that any live video, such as this one that I'm doing today, will be deleted after 30 days. And so you will not be able to point other people to this video on Facebook. They will have to go to my YouTube channel. And so I am asking each and every one of my viewers to subscribe to my YouTube channel at Sherelle Higgins 123. And so I thank you in advance, Tia. And I'm going to say Tia because there was a whole big old thing about me celebrating my birthday. I asked some people to do some birthday videos for me, wishing me a happy birthday. And in the text message, I said, hey, fam, friends, I need you to do this favor for me. Tia, thanks in advance. And a lot of the people that I sent it to did not know what Tia was, thought Tia was a person. And one of my friends, who shall remain nameless, called me up and said, who the hell is Tia? And why are we doing a video for Tia? I figured Tia was in the hospital and didn't have no friends, and that you were being your usual kind self and wanted to send Tia some birthday shout outs because Tia doesn't have any friends and family members. Well, that was far from the truth. We got a good laugh off of it. But quite a few people came back and said, who is Tia? So Tia is thanks in advance. And so, yes, I just recently celebrated my 59th birthday in Punta Cana with my husband. We had a wonderful time. We met some wonderful people and we just kicked it real hard. We did not even leave the resort the entire time. That's how hard we was kicking it at the resort. And so I want to do a special shout out to my husband for making sure that not only my birthday was special, but also Mother's Day. And I want to wish all of the mothers a happy belated Mother's Day. I hope that your Mother's Day was as wonderful as mine was. I told the people who live in my house, along with those who do not, I do not want to be bothered on Mother's Day. I want it to be quiet. I'm going to stay in my bed all day and I just want to be left alone. Please do not talk to me and I'm going to be good. So, of course, my daughter had to post something on social media talking about Happy Mother's Day to the mother who don't want to be bothered on Mother's Day. And my son, who gave me a card that said, to the queen from your little shit. And so, it's all good. My grandbabies, they, obliged me and made sure that I had a very peaceful and quiet Mother's Day. And so for that, I am thankful. And so today we are going to talk about politics. I have kicked the can on talking about politics for a minute because it's so much going on. And I was doing my let's get into it real quick, talking about, federal employees and what was happening to them and the things that they needed to know. And so I didn't really have an opportunity to really get into politics. But I also wanted to take a step back from listening to or reading about politics, because at some point it just gets to be overwhelming. And so today, my guest was gracious enough and brave enough to agree to come on my podcast and talk about politics. And so I am going to introduce you to Stacey Fitzgerald Red. Stacey is, of course, a Virginia State alumni, because you know Virginia State know how to do it. That's why I wore my orange earrings today to represent IVSU. I love it. I love it. I love it. And so Virginia State has produced so many educated, professional people in this world. We are doing great things, and we have to give that credit to Virginia State University. And so, Stacey, welcome to Let's Get Into It.
Thank you so much, Sherelle. I'm happy to be here.
And so, let me tell you a little bit about Stacey. Stacey, I'm about to have a hot flash, and I should have had my fan in here. Woo, these lights are hot. Anywho, so if y'all see a lot of sweat pouring down, don't worry about it. Just act like you don't see it. Stacey is a veteran communications pro whose diverse background includes digital marketing, content development, resume writing, which we are going to talk about, ghostwriting, and politic commentary. And during Trump's first term, her political essays were featured in the book Hijacked Nation by Bob Gatty and C.J. Waldron. So, Stacey, again, thank you. Yes, Kiki, VSU, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Thank you, Sherelle, for the introduction.
And so, Stacey, my first question that I want to talk about during the campaign season, one of the things that this administration claimed that they were going to do was fix the economy.
Right.
And they talked about how high the price of eggs were. Now, I had no idea how expensive eggs were because I don't go to the grocery store. My husband does the grocery shopping, and he has no sense of what a dollar is when it comes to grocery shopping. And so he was going in the grocery store buying eggs, and I'm thinking eggs are just regular price, and because we buying them by the 18s in the 2-pack. I didn't know eggs were so expensive. And so, Stacey, my question to you is, how is the economy going under this administration?
That's a really good starter question, Sherelle. One of the things I'll say is that the economy overall has surprising strength and resilience. We have, of course, been dealing with very high inflation on the negative side, but on the positive side, the underlyings of the economy have been good overall. And that includes unemployment. Unemployment is somewhere around 4%, inches closer to 5% every now and then, but in the 3.5% to 5% range, unemployment is really good. The caveat to that, though, is that anytime there's market uncertainty, as there has been with the Trump administration's announcement of tariffs, you see an immediate economic impact and pullback. And you can see some indicators of how that's showing up in the economy. Consumer confidence is at its lowest point in many, many years. And the stock market volatility continues. I read yesterday that the losses that had accumulated since Trump took office were erased in a couple of days with the announcement of some potential actions on trade with China and removing or reducing some of those tariffs. Anytime you can put some stability into the market by removing barriers to trade, and tariffs are a barrier to trade because they actually increase the price that Americans pay for products, that's going to be good for Americans overall because they'll keep more of the money that they earned versus having to pay it in additional costs for goods and services.
Okay. I am going to put my stuff on Do Not Disturb. I'm going to ask all of my people that normally would call me, do not call me during this time because I do not have my technology on Do Not Disturb. Because my phone is upstairs for some reason and I'm downstairs. Anywho, so thank you for that. So you mentioned tariffs, which
Yeah.
was going to be my next question. And so let's talk about how these tariffs are not only impacting the country, but specifically how they're impacting the small businesses and Black hair industry.
So, as I mentioned before, tariffs are actually a tax on goods and services that we get from foreign countries. How that impacts a small business is when they buy that merchandise, they're going to pay for the increased cost of having that product that's made overseas shipped into the United States. The purchaser of that product then has the ability to either eat that cost, which is not likely because businesses can't afford to absorb 100% of the cost of that product increase, or pass it along to you and me as consumers. A good example of how much tariffs weigh on the minds of American consumers is um, Caroline Levitt, who is the president's press secretary, um, uh, took the podium in the White House about, I don't know, a week or 10 days ago, and specifically mentioned that Jeff Bezos and Amazon were listing the cost of products that were made in China and how much additional they would cost as a result of tariffs. And of course, the administration didn't like that, right?
Right.
We can't have Americans knowing that this tariff policy is costing them money, which, of course, is what reasonable people were saying all along. Tariffs are going to be passed all along from the merchant to the consumer in the cost of higher goods and services. And so that's how tariffs are having an impact on the lives of everyday Americans.
Yeah, these tariffs are crazy. And I thought it was interesting how the administration reacted to Jeff Bezos wanting to list how
Mhm.
much extra we were going to pay. Because, of course, the administration wants us to believe that these tariffs don't impact us and that it is for the foreign businesses to pay, which they're not paying.
Yeah.
And so I thought it was important enough because there's so much we could talk about with politics, but it's important enough to me for us to talk about these tariffs and how the cost is passed on to the consumer, which is you and me and everybody else who are purchasing things. I am an Amazon lover.
Yeah.
And going on Amazon and paying extra money for something that I bought, let's say, a year ago, and now it's more expensive because of the tariffs, is just crazy to me. And for people to now be going on social media, all the different platforms, talking about if they had known, they would not have voted the way that they did. And a lot of people are calling it the FAFO phase.
Mhm.
Um, to me, it's ignorance, right? Because the information was always out there.
It
And
was.
for whatever reason, people chose not to pay attention to the information that was out there. But I get in some instances, people are struggling with deciphering between the truth and fiction, right?
Yeah.
And people are having a hard time understanding just how the basic economy works and how it impacts them. And so I think that as we go forward, people are going to be more educated because they're going to be spending more money out of their pockets to acquire the same things that they typically acquire, but it's going to be at a higher cost, which
Mhm.
is then going to have a direct impact on the economy because as things cost more, people are able to buy less.
Right.
And when we start thinking about the people that are in the lower economic echelon, a lot of the strain is on them. And for us as a country to think that the people who are already living in poverty and not earning a livable wage should be the ones to uphold the economy is just crazy to me. And so I think that's just one real difference between the Republican state of mind and the Democrat state of mind. Now, I'm not suggesting that either party is all right or all wrong.
No.
But when it comes to the economy, every time we have a Republican president, they drive our economy in the tanks. And then the Democratic president comes along, fixes the economy, brings everything back, and then the voters say that it's the Democrats who have ruined the economy. And
Yeah.
so it's just a mind game. And so I thought we should, just kind of flush that out a little bit. And so this new tax bill,
Mhm.
I don't know if you've had a chance to really dive into this new tax bill, but with the new tax bill, some of the things that struck me as strange is number one, the new tax bill, the conservatives want the American women to have more babies.
Uh-huh.
I'm not in that. I'm not in the baby making stage of life. I'm
No,
beyond.
am I.
So thank God. But I do have two kids who are in baby making stage, and one of them that made a baby, right? And so this is going to impact all of our children who are in baby making phases. But they want to cut or either eliminate the programs that would support the women who are in their baby making phase,
Right.
help the children. So, for example, they want to make some cuts to Medicaid.
Uh-huh.
We know Medicaid impacts the health care for lower income children and families. And so we all have somebody in our family, in our circle, who is a part of the lower income population. And yet they want to cut Medicaid for those people. And what are those people supposed to do?
Get sick and stay sick, because if Republicans have their way, there won't be much in terms of medical care that poor people and low income people can actually get. But also, let's be clear about this. A $5,000 incentive for a woman to have a child is nothing. With $5,000, whether they give it as a one-time payment or a tax credit, it's not saying anything to the cost of childcare, formula, clothing, rent, food for a baby. Average cost to raise a child to get to
talk about these $350 car seats, the things that the babies need to develop, to help them develop. Like everything is so expensive for babies, and so for them to think that giving them a $5,000 stipend to have a baby, that is crazy to me.
And for the Republicans to claim the label of being pro-life is laughable. They're not pro-life, they're pro-birth. They want women to have babies. They just don't want the babies to continue to live after they get here, because in no reasonable shape or fashion can $5,000 accommodate or cover the cost of raising a child in America when people are struggling for just a common sense livable wage, and they're cutting Medicare, they're cutting Medicaid, they're cutting preschool services, they're cutting Head Start. They're eliminating
Head Start.
Oh, I mean, I could go on and on. And I do want to add this though, Sherelle. The thing is that this is an incentive not for working and poor people, but it is an incentive that they think might motivate middle class people, but not middle class people with a brain, because they'll quickly figure out that having a child costs more than $5,000. It's nothing. I mean, that $5,000 isn't going to go far in terms of cost to take care of a child. It just won't. So it seems to me that some of the policies were drafted in a dark vacuum of a bygone era, because they're just not grounded in the reality of the expenses for the average American family today.
Oh, absolutely. And you talked about the we're going to get to the Head Start people, the program. However, they also want to eliminate the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance
Yep.
Program, which is also known as SNAP. And SNAP is a program that helps feed the babies,
Yep.
right? And the word nutrition is in there, but they don't care if it's nutritious or not, because the stores that they put in communities for lower income people are not stores that have nutrition as an option. And if you go to a store that has nutrition as an option, you can't afford it.
Yeah,
Because to eat healthy, it costs you way more money than it does to just feed your kids and make sure that they're not malnourished.
it does indeed.
And
Uh,
so, go ahead.
and food deserts are a real thing. It's a chronic societal problem, especially in Black and Brown communities. And these are issues that all really just point to the need for us to continue to be activists. I know many of us just want to take a back seat and let the next 4 years ride out and keep our heads down. We're facing real threats. Job elimination, federal job cuts. The latest unemployment data shows that unemployment for Black women actually rose significantly
Mm,
in the last couple of months. And, I'm a Black woman. Why wouldn't I be concerned about that?
mhm.
And with the national unemployment rate being in the somewhere 3 to 4%, and Black female unemployment being at 5%, notching a little bit more than that, I'm concerned about that. I understand the need to dial back a little bit to keep the rage cycle from uh, inhabiting your psyche.
Mhm.
But we have to stay boots on the ground with these social issues. And before you know it, some law will be passed that everybody just didn't know about because they weren't paying attention.
Wasn't paying attention. We're gonna talk about one of those laws in a minute. Um, but I wanted to talk about the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program,
Mhm.
which is on the chopping block because, first of all, they have terminated all of the staff that's responsible for the program. And that program helps babies and our elderly population during extreme heat and cold weather instances. And so, for them to say that we're not going to provide any support to these lower income people during times when they need heat or they need air conditioning is a travesty to me. I know that, my parents are elderly.
Mhm.
My mom is 79 and my dad is 80, about to be 81 this month. And that's considered elderly, right?
Yeah,
And so, for them not to have access to the assistance means that as the children, we got to pick up the slack,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so, but if we're losing our jobs through no fault of our own, it makes it more difficult for us to step up and fill the gap.
It does. And the reality is that's an excellent issue to point to as one where continued engagement with your representatives, with your lawmakers is so important. In the last month, I've contacted the offices for my congressional representative and my senators to to voice my opinion on a couple of issues. It is super easy to do that now, and the call switchboard on Capitol Hill is so sophisticated that they know who you are when you're calling in. Maybe not by name, but they use your phone number and route you. And your city and route you to the congressional representative's office if you don't know who that person is. The point I'm trying to make is, Sherelle, it's really important to be engaged in these issues. And the LIHEAP program is just another example of how mostly low income and mostly Black and Brown people will be disenfranchised under this administration. Wealthy, um, uh, higher income and high net worth individuals will be just fine. Poor people will carry the weight of those people if the Republicans have their way. And these tax cuts that Trump instituted in 2017 are allowed to continue at the same level that they have been, because it means that we'll be paying the subsidizing tax cuts for rich people, and we can't do that. And at the same time, watching people that need assistance not get it.
Exactly. So the other thing is the child care access means parents in school program. And they're calling for the elimination of child care subsidies for 18% of our undergraduate college students who are parents. And so, even though, some of our college students are having babies, they are trying to eliminate the program that would allow them to continue their college education, and so that they can position themselves to be able to take care of their babies. And so we are putting them at a deficit by eliminating this program.
Yeah, we're supposed to be the bootstrap nation. We're all supposed to magically pull ourselves out of poverty and out of these conditions. And how do you do that? You get an education.
Mhm.
Oh, but forget this. Student loan forgiveness, public service student loan forgiveness is a good example.
Mhm.
You serve the federal government, and they cut you some slack and forgive your loans. For periods of financial distress, loans were in forbearance, nobody was making a payment. Now the tough line is you're all in default, and we're all going to start collection on these student loans because you people need to pay.
Absolutely.
So we're supposed to bootstrap our way up through education, and we do the best we can. And at every turn, these programs that help us are being dismantled.
Mhm. When we were in Punta Cana for my birthday, we met a young couple. And the young lady, this couple was not married. They were engaged, and they were talking about getting married sometime in the future. And we just we just got to talking. And one of the things, of course, we disclosed that we were both retired. And the young lady said to me, she was like, "I love my mother to death. Like, I would not trade my mother for anything." She said, "However, I just don't have anybody in my life who can help me navigate how to live this life and
Mhm.
how to get to a place of retirement and how to make smart decisions with my money. I just don't have anybody I can rely on to do that." And so Jim and I agreed to be their mentors. And so, it's that kind of thing that we have to do in our community to ensure that the next generation coming behind us is prepared for this thing called life.
Yeah, and so if you don't have parents that provided that example for you, parents are kids' first teachers.
Yes.
And I have sons. My oldest he'll be 22 in August. My youngest just turned 18. I talk to them all the time about money and financial management. You know why? Because I started working when I was really, really young, and nobody talked to me about those things, Sherelle. My mother, it was the best she could with 6 kids and being divorced. The best she could as a single woman. The best she could do to take care of us was to continue to work, and we were all fed and safe and healthy and all that. But you know financial management was not her forte. So you have to start early talking to your kids. And I can talk extensively about financial management with my kids because I made a lot of mistakes financially, especially when I was young. And so I don't sugarcoat things with them. I talk to them about credit. I talk to them. My son I have him in the regular habit of depositing 10% of his check into his savings account. You have got to talk to young people about how to life, because and that's a book that I'm planning to write sometime soon, because these kids are out here floundering when it comes to lifing 101. They cannot do it.
Yeah.
And so for you and Jim to agree to mentor this couple is huge. We need the multiplier effect of Higgins's in order to get our young people to where they need to be, because they're out here struggling.
Yeah, and I just refuse to be the type of person that I got mine, good luck with getting yours,
Right.
right? And so we have a comment here that says the student loan people are already reporting people 120 days late on their credit reports for loans that were in forbearance or deferral.
Yeah.
And that is crazy to me, right? And it's just another hurdle for people to have to jump through to try to acquire some type of wealth. And contributing to your 401ks is so important. Also being able to purchase homes, right, is just so important to generational wealth. And for the administration to be making it even that much harder for people to be able to acquire these things is not because they want to see everybody do well,
Right.
right? They want to see the very wealthy do well, and everybody else pull themselves up by the bootstrap, and we just gonna throw every obstacle your way to ensure that you cannot pull yourself up by the bootstraps.
And it's crazy to me, Sherelle, that in this country, and another example of this happened this week. The United States is paying to import Afrikaners
Come on.
into the country,
Yes,
paying for them to resettle as refugees in the country.
but
At
not just all of them.
at the same time, white Afrikaners are welcomed into the country. They are ending programs that gave asylum to political people, refugees who are fleeing persecution in their country, war and violence.
Hmm.
Afghans who fought alongside our soldiers in Afghanistan. It's crazy to me that the Republican base accepts the importation of Afrikaner refugees, and I lose that term. I use that term very loosely because technically they're not refugees.
Right.
And doesn't label that socialism, but does label public service loan forgiveness as socialism.
Oh, absolutely. And
Makes sense.
so, just a couple more programs that I want to talk about under this new tax bill that they're either trying to cut completely or cut to some degree or eliminate completely. The Child Care Access, no, I'm sorry, the Social Services Block Grant and Temporary Assistance for Needy Family. They
Mhm.
want to cut or eliminate the resources to federal funding for child care, like Head Start, which you mentioned earlier. And so, without the babies having access to Head Start, maybe due to financial reasons, it's just crazy to me. I'm like, at some point we had a No Child Left Behind rule, which was devastating to our kids because that didn't necessarily help our kids any. But for us to cut out programs like Head Start, we are now asking parents to do more, right? And we have already moved from a culture where parents were the parents to the parents being the friend.
Right.
And now we're going to even further disenfranchise the kids by not giving them access to programs like Head Start.
And at the same time, cutting education funding so that they have fewer teachers and resources in schools. Listen, there is no disputing the fact, Sherelle, that our government is fundamentally broken.
Right.
But I don't think that that it's going to be fixed anytime soon.
I don't think so either.
And The reality is, as people disengage and become more disenfranchised with what the government is doing, they'll back out of it, right? I don't want anything to do with politics. But you can't, again, you can't take that road, because it means that all these decisions that are being made don't have the benefit of input from actual people that will be impacted by these harmful policies. LAHEAP is one. We talked about TANF. Um, uh, we talked about the food stamps or SNAP program. Inflation is ridiculous. Food is expensive. The cost of eggs is a concern. The cost of gasoline is a concern. And our government is telling us continue to pay us taxes, but get fewer and fewer services for that.
Oh, absolutely.
So I understand how people are feeling the frustration and the disgust with government, but we have to push to fix it.
We really do. And I really do get where Black women are in terms of we did what we were supposed to do, right? I
Mhm.
get that. And I also get that, the others, non-Blacks who voted against their own interests are now finding out what that really means.
Yep.
And so I think that there is a time such as this for us to sit back and say, okay, this is what you voted for. Now I need you to feel it. And the reason why we need them to feel it is so that we can then have the first Black mayor of Omaha who unseated the longest serving Republican in this country as a mayor.
Yes.
We needed them to feel it because we know that the people in Omaha, Nebraska, they not like us.
No.
They feel it, and so they making different decisions.
They are making different decisions, and I'm actually glad you used that as an example, because as much as we are frustrated as Black women, particularly who are politically active and are out there campaigning, signing up people to vote, providing resources and transportation so that people can be politically engaged, and to have the outcome of this election be what it was, despite all of our hard work, was frustrating. And then you have people who, on the opposite end, support Trump and vote for his second term in office, despite being a 34 count convicted felon, accused of sexual assault, convicted of and that is okay, right? This is a candidate that you find preferable, and the person that you want in the White House, who is actively working on policies that will disenfranchise what they thought were just those other people, the nebulous other people, those Black and brown people, those immigrants, all those people over there. But when they cut DEI jobs at the federal level and encouraged private industry companies to cut DEI jobs, the number one benefactor of DEI jobs was white women.
Absolutely.
White women lost jobs too.
Yes. And now they looking crazy.
And now they're and we're talking about education. We're talking about the West Virginia and Kentucky losing a third of their education funding. And those states, by the way, rank very low on the list of top education systems in the country. A third of their revenue being lost from the Department of Education. Constant threats to educational institutions, universities, denying them funding or retracting grants, pulling medical research grants. It's all crazy.
Oh, wow. Having somebody in charge of the Department of Education who can write a simple sentence, subject verb agreement. And Harvard told that behind up.
That was funny to witness. But the sad thing is, Sherelle, is that we don't want to accept this. We cannot accept this as our new reality.
Right.
We can't accept this as our new reality. The good thing is we have an opportunity to undo some of this with the midterm elections.
Right.
And you know, it seems like it's a long way away, but it's 2025 now. 2026 is next year, and before you know it, with the way these months and days are passing, it'll be time to hold those midterm elections
and hold those people in Congress accountable. Jackie says that they're also talking about some cuts to rental assistance. Absolutely.
Yeah.
They don't want you to have housing, but they also don't want you sleeping on the streets.
Yeah, they want you thrown in jail if you're sleeping on the streets, especially in what this administration calls the poorly run democratic cities. They want you arrested
to the poorly run red states.
But yeah, they want you arrested and thrown in jail for being on the streets and homeless, but don't want to provide any kind of rental assistance or funding for programs that would help you overcome that circumstance. I mean, it's very dystopian, but at the end of the day, I believe that the only way we change any of this is to continue to be politically engaged. It doesn't mean that you spend all of your time getting sapped into this downward spiral of how bad things are. You choose what issues you want to engage on and how much you want to absorb. I happen to think that it's all worth absorbing, or at least most of it is worth absorbing and reacting to on some level. All I do is share information about what's happening in our country. Sometimes I comment on it. Okay, frequently I comment on it. However, I do that because I don't want people to lose sight of the fact that this stuff is happening in broad daylight.
Well, here's the thing, right? This is what I know about Black women. We may seem like we have disengaged, but when it's time to go to the polls, we gonna show up.
That is true.
That is going to show up, and we are going to show out because we understand the impact that it's going to have to us, and more importantly, the impact it's going to have to our Black sons, right?
But Sherelle, it's not just that though. I wholeheartedly agree with you about that. Black people, though, don't just care about the impact to us.
We don't. We care about the impact to everybody, and that's our problem.
See, and that's the issue. That's the fundamental difference that I see between Democrats and Republicans today. Republicans only care about what happens within their base, their narrow base of voters, and Democrats actually see the value in having all of us succeed and all of us being successful, all of us being gainfully employed, all of us having access to programs and services, including mental health services.
Ooh, honey, you just said a whole word right there. Don't get even. I'm gonna do a show on it about this mental health business because it is out of control. This country is rich enough to be able to provide resources for people who have mental health challenges. And for us not to be doing that and expecting the families who are not educated to deal with that is crazy.
Yeah. And but we can have a military parade.
Oh, what? Come on now.
On the president's birthday.
Yes.
And spend what?
Millions
of dollars.
Yes.
On a military parade. On DC.
And we got millions of dollars to spend for him to go to play golf.
Yeah. On DC streets that are not equipped to handle heavy military equipment. All all in celebration of it's well, ostensibly it was supposed to be for the anniversary of the army or whatever it was that they were saying it was for, that just happens to be on Trump's birthday.
Right. Crazy. So
Oh,
Angie
wow.
says, yes, midterms are critical and can make a big difference to change much of the nonsense that's happening right now. Constituents in red states are hurting too. Oh, they gonna hurt more than the blue state
And
constituents.
that is the point, that the red states all voted for this particular president under the guise that he was going to institute policies that would make things better for them. I just told you, though, that 33% of West Virginia's education budget comes from the Department of Education. That's how much funding they're going to lose
Yeah,
in West Virginia.
yeah. So they're gonna be even more uneducated,
And
and well,
that and if you look at the situation, you realize quickly that red states and red state voters. And by the way, to be fair, a deeper dive into the data will show you that there are a few states that are actually completely red.
right.
A presidential candidate might win the whole state, but it doesn't mean every voter in that state is a Republican. That's not
No,
real.
no, that doesn't mean that at all. And my husband's family is from West Virginia.
Mhm.
And I've been to West Virginia many, many, many times, and I will tell you they are not like us.
Yeah, I mean, listen, very little convincing here. I know they're like not like us, but those people, let me tell you, the red states are going to hurt, and they're going to hurt in ways that they haven't fully realized, or just are starting to realize. When you see videos of a woman who supported Trump saying, "I didn't realize this was going to impact me," but you were okay with it impacting other people.
Absolutely. And all of the things going on that he's taking from the coal miners, right? The black lung disease, taking away their health care so that they can't get treated for the black lung disease, and promising them that coal was coming back when he knew goodness well coal was never coming back. But they bought into it because that's the only damn industry in West Virginia practically. And they bought into it. And now they're seeing that not only did he lie to them, but he had no intentions of bringing coal back.
And this focus, and I'll say this, and then I'll kind of wrap up some of my diatribe about what's wrong here. Some of this is just basic common sense. The president supposedly wants the country to focus more on manufacturing here in the United States. But if you look at the landscape, Sherelle, we really don't have the manufacturing capacity in the United States to be able to handle the kind of output that's needed for American consumers.
Right.
And so imported products is where we are. It'll take years to even build the infrastructure for the kind of manufacturing increase that the president has said that he wants.
Yeah, and because when we had that manufacturing infrastructure, they figured out real quick that it was cheaper to send it overseas to have it made. And so that's what they did. And so one thing, that they're not going to do is go back and say, let's build up this infrastructure so we can do more manufacturing. They're just not going to do that.
It makes zero sense to institute regressive policies that will take us back to some bygone era of coal, which is just not going to happen. So, I mean, it's lunacy.
Yes. And Marquita said, fooled around and finding out, but we know what she really wanted to say.
I know what she really wants to say. But bottom line is, it is overwhelming at times, Sherelle, following the political news. And we're just getting started, honey. It's only May.
It's only May.
And he's been in office. He's been in office for less than 4 months.
Yes, just a little bit more than 100 days. So let's switch and talk about how we as a country are so involved in the violence that is happening in foreign countries and the wars that are happening. And our current administration is talking about what they can do to stop the violence in these other countries, but there's no conversation about what they're going to do to stop the violence in this country.
Oh, the administration already thinks that they've already done something about the violence in this country, Sherelle. Don't you know that deporting all of the illegals, quote unquote, was supposed to fix the violence problems? Now, the big assumption there is that all the illegals are committing all of the crimes. I think FBI statistics would say otherwise.
Oh, absolutely, it would. And the whole
And that is not to say that we give blanket authorization to people who are here illegally to be here illegally.
right,
That's not what I'm advocating for at all.
right,
But I do think that there comes a time when you have to face some reality about crime in America, which is it happens in every neighborhood, among every demographic, and singling out immigrants for extrajudicial prosecution here is
without due process.
crazy.
Without due process.
Without
And
due
if they get
process.
away with doing that to immigrants without due process, we know we're next.
Yeah, I mean, the Supreme Court right now is trying to decide whether or not
Yes.
uh,
Birthright citizenship.
can limit birthright citizenship.
So here's the thing about that, though. The tricky thing is that's actually not what they're considering right now. They're not considering on face value birthright citizenship. What they're considering is, can these judges issue a nationwide injunction on, can they issue an injunction on a nationwide policy? And that's what they're considering. And so when we don't read the fine print, we think that they're going into the Supreme Court to talk about this birthright citizenship. And we already know that the 14th Amendment says all individuals born in the United States are U.S. citizens.
Yes,
What
Sherelle.
they're talking about is procedural things.
That is true, but the basis of this argument is, does the president have the authority to issue an executive order that limits birthright citizenship? This is why this case is in the
Yes.
Supreme Court.
And we know he does not. That's Congress.
And see that, but the fact of the matter is, we have gotten to a stage in the United States that the founders of the founding fathers never anticipated. And that is the fact that we would have an executive whose idea of executive authority wants to overstep what is detailed in the Constitution. The Constitution says that anybody born in America is an American citizen.
Absolutely. And that's interesting, because if you think about all of the things that the forefathers thought of, like, I'm amazed. If you think about like what they had access to, how they lived, like so many things just wasn't invented yet. So many mindsets wasn't developed yet, and they had the foresight to think about these things and put the Constitution in place to cover these things.
Yeah.
And so now we have somebody who's saying, forget the Constitution. I know I took an oath to the Constitution to hold this job right here, but I ain't thinking about the Constitution. That's just a piece of paper that I don't have to abide by. I don't have to abide by the rule of law. And because I control the House and the Senate, they're not gonna buck me. Right.
Which brings up another one of my issues, which is there is not the will on the Republican side most of the time to stand up to this president.
And you know why? Because they are so afraid that they're going to lose their seat. And he gonna make them lose their seat anyway, because he gonna dog them out. One by one, he gonna dog them out and go against them. And they then turned around, bent over, and said, have your way with me, but I'm still not gonna buck you.
They
But
don't want to be called out by the bullying class. They don't want to be called out by the bullying class. They don't even want to be mentioned. Bezos reacts to the revelation about the price of the tariff being available on Amazon by removing that information, so we can't see it because it might affect the president.
Exactly. So Jen says he's dismantling the country in a way that could take years to recover from. I'm not sure we'll even see that recovery in our lifetime. That is true, unless we show up and vote in the midterms and beyond. You know, I said during the last election, I'm over stressing to people how important it is to vote. I'm over that. Because if you don't get it by now, you ain't never going to get it. And you don't want to get it. So either you go to the polls and vote, or you get what you get as a result of not going to the polls and voting, or going to the polls and voting against your own interests. It is what it is. So let me, a couple things I want to talk about. Let's talk about this $400 million airplane gift from Qatari.
Violation of the emolument clause.
Yes. As a government worker, you cannot accept a gift over $20. So how do we get to $400 million and it'd be okay?
I want to point out this though, Sherelle. This is one important thing. I want everybody to look up a video on YouTube from Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein is a journalist. He made a video at the beginning, right after Trump took office. I believe it might have been sometime in maybe February. The name of the video is called "Don't Believe Him." So spend some time watching that video. It's not very long. Basically, Ezra Klein's point is Trump will try to throw everything against the wall to see if he can get away with it. He will believe he has the power to change the government and to shut down programs and to eliminate funding and to impound funding for universities and things like that. Ezra Klein's point in this video is he wants you to believe that he has all this power, but don't believe him.
Right.
And we've seen that the judiciary has been the strong branch of the government in this effort to check and balance the way our government works, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that's a good thing. It doesn't always work out in favor of reason.
Common sense.
But it has quite a few times worked out in favor of reason. And you'll see these things happening and think nothing is happening or nothing is going to reverse this course. And then something like with the Librarian of Congress being fired from her job. And when the folks that were with her replacement showed up to get in the building, they weren't allowed to come into the building because somebody on Capitol Hill figured out that the Library of Congress is not under the authority of the executive
branch. It's not. It's under the legislative branch.
It's under the legislative branch. So that is yet another power that the executive branch does not have. Exactly. And by the way, that was a perfect example of how the spin about DEI defies the reality about the people that will replace or have replaced the people that were in those positions. Trump ultimately appointed his attorney to be the Librarian of Congress, despite having no library experience and being wholly unqualified for that position.
Everybody in this administration is qualified for the jobs that they have.
These appointments are being made based on loyalty and
that's
it. And your sworn allegiance to whatever he wants.
Yes.
That's not the way it's supposed to work.
So Curtis said that's the MO. Throw it all out there and see what sticks. Absolutely. And so, this time has really gone fast. So I'm going to ask my audience to stick with me for a minute. I'm going to go over a little bit because there's a couple other things I want to talk about before I get to my what the hell segment. These voting changes for women. If your last name does not match your birth certificate, because you got married and changed your last name, guess what we all gonna have to do? We're gonna have to go back to our maiden name so that we can vote. Like, I'm just like, this is crazy. And then they're gonna put these hurdles in place for us to jump through to go back to our maiden names. Because I could tell you right now, I'm going to vote. And if I gotta change my last name from Higgins back to Vincent, it's on and popping.
You better have something that has your legal name on it. I'm fortunate. My birth name, my maiden name is Fitzgerald, but I obtained a passport after I got married. And so my passport has my legal name, which is as it appears on screen. But there are a lot of women who remarried and don't have a passport.
My passport say Higgins. I don't give a care. If I got to go down to whoever and stand in line for however long, if that's what it takes for me to have my right to vote, that's what I'm going to do. And what they are short-sighted on is, in my household, I'm the person who tells everybody who to vote for.
Mm-hmm.
So you can say what you want. My husband might have a right to vote, but I'm gonna tell him who to go down there and vote for. Like, are you crazy? Like, so just stop. So that's one thing I wanted to point out. The other thing I wanted to point out was the huge win that the Democrats got in North Carolina with their Supreme Court justice when the Republicans tried to throw out over 60,000 votes to get this Republican on the bench so that they could have majority. And the Democrats fought that thing and they won that thing. And the Republicans finally conceded and said, we're not going to take this any further. Go ahead, you got it. And so now we have seated this female on the Supreme Court down in North Carolina, and now the Democrats run North Carolina. So here's what I say to North Carolina. Kudos to you for going out there and voting, because if it did not matter, they would not be going through these extra long, arduous steps to disenfranchise your vote.
That is an excellent point.
Just keep voting.
If it didn't matter, they wouldn't be working so hard to try to make it. The reason why they're trying to institute the SAVED Act is to permit a certain percentage of the population from voting, to make it harder, make the barriers to voting higher and higher and higher. So you have to do more and more and more, and people will eventually get fatigued and be like, you know what, it's not worth it.
I ain't never gonna say that. I don't care what they say we got to do. I'm doing it. If they say we got to stand in line for 24 hours, I'm right there with my chair, rocking my leg back and forth, talking about, is it my turn yet?
But these conversations are important, Sherelle, because there are a lot of people that don't have a clue what the SAVE Act is.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So it is 7:33. We could talk about politics all day and all night. And so I wanted to at least scratch the surface and talk about the latest things. Of course, we ran out of time before we got a chance to really delve into how all of this craziness is impacting our federal employees. Our federal employees are our families, our spouses, our friends, our neighbors. It is impacting everybody around us. And I have done multiple videos on the impact it is having on our federal employees. But this is what I want to say to our federal employees. If you are eligible to retire and you are financially prepared, hit the gas pedal. Get the hell up out of there. If you are a federal employee and you're eligible to retire, but you cannot retire because you're not financially prepared, ride it out. Make them roll you up out of there and then take your retirement. If you are a federal employee and you're not eligible to retire, ride it out. Make them walk you up out of the building and get your severance pay, get your priority consideration on future federal jobs, get everything that is due to you. Do not quit your job. It is not that serious. Let them walk you out. And you might find that even in a riff, you might not be touched. You
Right.
might still have your job. So, with that being said, I want to thank Stacy, my special guest, for coming on here and talking about politics with me. I will definitely have you back so we can continue this conversation. And before I let my audience go, you know I have to do my what the hell segment. So, thank you, Stacy.
Thank you, Sherelle.
Sit tight for me. So, what the hell? What the hell is a real ID? Now, you know, I've been having one for years at this point, but what the hell is a real ID? What is it for? Why do we need it? Is it just another money grab? We had to prove who we were before we got a driver's license or before we got a state ID. We had to prove who we were. So now what are we proving? Are we proving again who we are just to get a real ID that costs more money? Like, this is the craziest thing that I have ever seen. We have to have a real ID to travel within the United States. So you mean to tell me that my driver's license, who I had to prove who I was, is not good enough to travel on an airplane within the country? So what can we expect next? Can we expect that in order for us to travel across state lines in a car, we're going to have some type of special ID to prove who we are? This is the craziest nonsense that this country is doing on top of all the other crazy nonsense that they are doing. Now, if you don't have a real ID, you need to have a passport. And if you have a passport, you can travel across the country on an airplane, but you have to take your passport with you. I travel a lot, and typically when I'm traveling across the country, I don't take my passport because like I said, I have a real ID. I've been having it for years because at the time that I need to renew my license, they was offering it and I had to pay a couple extra dollars to get it. So I just went on and did it. But as of May 7th, if you don't have a real ID, you can't get on the plane if you don't have a passport. Now, why is that? What is the purpose? You have already proven who you are. And if you need to get a real ID, make sure you read about and be prepared for the type of verifications you need. You need something that shows your mailing address on it because that's going to prove who you are somehow. I don't know how, but somehow you having a light bill in your name is going to prove who you are. And I saw a young guy, he was 11 years old on YouTube today. He was a comedian, and he was talking about how his daddy had all his bills in this young boy's name. And so, does that really prove who you are? You know, you can have your mail sent anywhere you want. Nobody's going to check that. And so, make sure you get your real ID, y'all. Go down to the DMV, spend your couple of hours down there going through the process. Make sure you have what you need to prove who you are and where you live, and so that you can travel across this country, because I guarantee you the next move is that they're going to say you cannot cross state lines in a car unless you have some proof of who you are. And so with that being said, I want to thank you all for joining me today. I want to thank my special guest, Stacy, for having this conversation with me about politics. I want to thank everybody for your comments. This has been a great show. I'm glad to be back. I will be back in 2 more weeks. And with your real ID, make sure you make an appointment. Thank you, Marquita. Don't just go down to the DMV thinking you're going to get your real ID. Make an appointment. And so, again, thank you all for joining me. I'll see you in 2 weeks on Thursday at 6:30 p.m. Have a great, great evening. thank you for joining and participating in Let's Get Into It. I want to thank my special guest for being brave enough to get into it. Without you, these conversations cannot happen. Remember, different viewpoints, respect, and love are the foundations of Let's Get Into It. If there's a topic you think I should discuss, drop me a recommendation. If you're interested in being my special guest, let me know because we can and will get into it. Have a great day on purpose, and I look forward to your continued engagement and support as we get into it.